listening to the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports, game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jay Golden.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Today's Friday episode of Behind Enemy Lines, we're going to be looking at tomorrow's kickoff at 6 p.m. against Marshall Thundering Herd, a big matchup for both teams, but most importantly, it's homecoming. Today, joining us is going to be co-host Russ Livingood of the ThunderCast. Excited to talk about that, but before we get into it, let's thank our sponsor. Before we get into the episode, I need to thank our sponsor. Gold's Gym has been the mecca of fitness since 1965, and to celebrate their 60-year anniversary right now, you can get a month-to-month membership for just $19.65 bi-weekly. That's no commitment, full access to all 16 Gold's Gym Tennessee locations, and top-tier equipment to help you level up your fitness no matter your sport. But here's the deal. This offer is only available online, and it ends when the summer does, so don't wait. Go to goldsgym.com and lock it in today. Gold's Gym Tennessee. Train like a legend, no strings attached. Now, let's get back to the episode. Joining the Blue Raider Podcast, it is co-host of the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood. Russ, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be on here, Jake. Appreciate you reaching out, and you were on my show for my little thing, and I'm glad to reciprocate and see what I can answer on your show.
A lot of questions for you guys, much like there's already a lot of internal questions for what's happening here at MTSU. But you guys are kind of going through the growing pains, if you will, that we experienced in Derek Mason's season 1. So tell me, what's kind of the feel in Huntington right now? Are things optimistic now that you got your first win under your belt? How are y'all feeling?
Winning cures everything, doesn't it? If you would have asked me before that victory how things were going, with the fan base, it would have been a drastically different situation. Yes, it was only an FCS victory, but getting that first victory changed a lot of people's perception of the season. It's been a struggle early, and mainly because of the week 2 loss. I think everybody pretty much expected that we were not going to go down to Georgia and beat Georgia at Georgia. But I think everybody expected we were going to beat Missouri State at home and be 2-1 going into this game with Middle Tennessee State. Now we're 1-2 with an FCS victory being our lone victory. So I would say more optimistic this week, but still very tempered expectations.
Timing's everything, right? Like if you start your season off with Eastern Kentucky, then you go to Georgia, right? Like the expectations kind of waver entirely differently. So it's an interesting, unique, and same with us. Here we lose our week 1 matchup to Austin Peay. We have a relatively good showing against Wisconsin for a half of football. So timing's everything, and that's and it obviously perception's huge. Marshall has a huge fan base there. I guess the real question is, and we ask the same question week to week at this point, Nevada. That was a pivotal game for them last week if they wanted any opportunity to get to 6 wins. Is that a reasonable expectation for you guys? Is 6 wins still attainable? And I guess the obvious question is this a big part of that?
This game's definitely a big part of that. I actually had us at 3-1 going into conference play, which means you only have to go 3-5 to get 6 wins in a bowl game. And that was kind of my ceiling as far as not the win total, but a bowl game. I think the CFP was going to be not an option, this year in such a rebuilding year. I felt like it was going to be extremely hard to win the Sun Belt Conference, to be a conference, go to the conference championship game, win that game. So kind of bowl game was, hey, if you can do that in year 1 with everything that happened, with roster turnover is what I'm referencing for anybody that might be watching or listening that's not aware of that. I felt like 6 wins plus and a bowl game was our goal. I think it's still attainable. I do. But now you have to definitely go at least 500 in Sun Belt Conference play if you beat MTSU. So if you go 2-2 into conference play, you at least got to go 4-4, simple math to get that bowl game. it's going to be a lot tougher now. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot, but it still can happen.
Let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. The offense. That was a big question mark when we discussed on our show earlier this week. What does Marshall have at offense? I know prior to recording, you feel confident that Marshall has found their quarterback. They've rolled through a couple now. Tell us about that quarterback situation y'all are dealing with.
Yeah, so coming out of spring ball, Carlos Del Rio Wilson was going to be the number one. And even Sun Belt Conference media days, coach said just that. Fall camp came. Ja'Kai Long, who is a redshirt freshman, a local kid into the Huntington area, only 35 minutes down the road. He came on so strong and was thought to be the future of the program that he won the starting job against Georgia. And obviously it's Georgia, and there was little to no production by anyone on the team, but definitely him as a starter, he didn't see that. So week 2, they rolled with Zion Turner because he had the hot hand against Georgia. He had one drive basically that he marched right down the field throwing some darts. So he got that week 2 start. Didn't turn out very well. Then they went with Carlos Del Rio Wilson. He accounted for 3 touchdowns last week. The offense seemed to do a lot better under him. So he's now QB1.
My question for this situation, and I know you talked about it a little bit, but as good as he looked, 2-part question, as good as he looked, why wouldn't he have been the quarterback or even given an opportunity in Missouri State? And then secondly, do you think it's a product of just playing Eastern Kentucky? I hate to put that down as coming from a school that lost to an FCS opponent, but how much of that is smoke and mirrors because of their opponent?
Both are extremely valid questions, and I'm not afraid to answer those. My thoughts were that it was shocking to me that he was not seen in week 2, nor was Ja'Kai Long seen. If you earn the start versus Georgia, you would think that you would get an opportunity to play against someone that's not Georgia, and that didn't happen. Zion Turner had the keys to the car for the entire week 2 against Missouri State. It was a question that we asked on our show. Why did we not see Carlos Del Rio Wilson? Why did we not see Ja'Kai Long? Just a couple of series, see if the offense could do any better. We did not get a first down during the first quarter. We had, I think, 7 total yards during the first quarter in 3 possessions in that game. And Zion Turner played the entire game. I'm not knocking Zion, but sometimes the offense is just not moving. You need to try something else. The second part of that question, because you can tell I don't have an answer on the why he was not seen. Second part is very valid. This was just an FCS program. So now I think we still have questions at QB, even though right now he's QB1. He had 3 passes against Georgia. He was in for like 1 series, maybe 2. And he did not play in week 2. And then he played in the first half of week 3 against an FCS opponent. Yes, there are still questions. Yes, it is very valid to ask, is that only a byproduct of the team that we played?
I'll ask another 2-parter. I hate to set you up like this and have an answer 2 parts, but I think that this one parlays nice because when you talk about what Del Rio Wilson does particularly well, he uses his legs well. I mean, he was your leading rusher last week at Eastern Kentucky. So he in of himself can help open up his own passing game. But does he have weapons around him that also, again, does he elevate those around him where you talk about the prior 2 quarterbacks? Does he just give the offense another leg to stand on, so to speak?
That's a good question. He does have weapons around him. Our running back room is loaded, and none of them have had a lot of carries, so you could see that. Week 2 was probably where we got to see the best of a couple of runners because they were the only 2 running backs that we put out, but we rotate 5 running backs. We have a lot of receiving options around him. We just have not seen it all come together yet, and that's the big part. I think the offense would have ran fairly well with Turner or Long in there. But when they came in, they did not have the production that Del Rio did. So I think it could be argued that, yes, he just, with his legs, with the way that the offense moved, that he did elevate everyone around him and the offense, because we scored 31 in the first half. We scored 7 in the second half. A lot of that was no real pressure, taking the foot off the gas, but you have to attribute a lot of that to Carlos Del Rio Wilson as well.
Let's flip the conversation. We're talking that defense. That's something that we highlighted a ton. Is we know what struggles we have, our own struggles on offense. We know our quarterback though, but we still can't move the football. And I don't know that it gets any easier this week. We faced the likes of Wisconsin, who is arguably the best defense we're going to face this year, but there's an argument to be made for Marshall. Again, I'll be the pessimist as the rival fan base here. Maybe it's because they've played Missouri State, but Jacob Clark, the quarterback there for the Bears, has looked pretty darn good. Eastern Kentucky, not necessarily known for their high-flying offense, but you can't argue. 11 sacks in 2 games, 22 tackles for loss in 2 games. Those are numbers that are great. What about this defensive front is just so strong?
Well, so they run a 3-3-5. Tony Gibson has always been known for his 3-3-5 or 3-3-5 stack variation, and he relies on speed and athleticism, just pure chaos. A lot from the linebackers. You're going to see flying around Cannon Lewis from middle linebacker position, Kerryon Martin from the outside. Up front, we rotate in a lot of guys. You'll see Katron Evans as the big body nose tackle. And then we have a lot of people that rotate in and out, kind of stay fresh. But Braden Ward, native West Virginian, is 6'6", coming off the edge on the defensive end position. And he had 1.5 sacks this past game. And I think it was 1.5. And that's what you get. You get a lot of pressure up front just from the linebackers and just from those 3 down linemen. But then you're constantly having 5 defensive backs, and some of those play these hybrid roles. You'll see Cam Smith coming up and might as well be a linebacker. Same every now and then with Marvay Myers. So, and Jadarius Green McKnight as well. So it's kind of like, yes, it's a 3-3-5, but you see people playing in these hybrid roles that they can, hey, how many linebackers are truly out there right now? Do you have 5 or do you have 3?
Yeah, the 3-3-5 gives the defense a lot of opportunities to kind of disguise what they're in. And you talk about having those versatility pieces that play nickel for you. But those guys up front, again, it's spectacular numbers. But the 3-3-5 at times can be susceptible to the run game, which is an area that MTSU hasn't been particularly good at. But Marshall has, again, great numbers on run defense. But I want to lead you into this question. If there was a side that they would be more susceptible to, is it giving up the run or is it giving up the passing yards?
Well, we faced a team, EKU, that came into the game, the first game, 76 passing yards, second game, 79 passing yards. They didn't really do much. We started off with 2 interceptions within the first 9 minutes against their starter. And then from there, they brought in a backup, and he actually threw a little bit. I feel like we're more vulnerable right now through the air as we try to find ourselves. Maybe 11 rushing yards or something like that last week. It's one of those that got to kind of throw the results from Georgia out, but even at that Georgia game, a lot of Georgia fans said, wow, you guys have a fast defense, and you guys were flying all over the field. And I feel like your defense is one of the better G5 defenses. So we have that ability. Jacob Clark did put up a lot through the air from us, but he's also Jacob Clark, 7th-year guy. I don't know that everybody's going to be able to do what he did, throwing for 329 or 359, whatever. I think it was 359. But right now, a little more vulnerable through the air, still trying to figure some of that stuff out.
Well, that's certainly an interesting piece to the puzzle. But I want to get into what you describe as the keys to the game. But before we do that, I need to thank Trevor Haggard of State Farm, because when life happens, you want someone in your corner who actually knows your name. And that's where Trevor Haggard State Farm comes in. Whether it's protecting your car, your home, or your family's future, Trevor and his team are right here in Murfreesboro ready to help. So don't just settle for some 1-800 number. Call a neighbor who cares. Call Trevor Haggard State Farm today and let them help you protect what matters most. Trevor Haggard State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And of course, you can reach them in their office at 615-203-5522 or reach their website, trevorismyagent.com. Russ, give it to me. What are the keys for Marshall to have a successful Saturday and get to 500?
Number one, I said you got to establish a passing game, and our leading passer this season has 183 yards on 39 attempts, and he might be our third string quarterback right now. As a team, we have 326 yards through 3 games. 109 a game, really. And last game, 14 passing attempts out of 71 total offensive plays. That was 20% passing versus 80% running, right on the nose. So we have got to establish a passing game. We haven't done it yet. We need to do it.
And again, I like that you break it down to that comparison of 20 to 80%, because one, I think if you can establish the run game and put up 38 points, that's something that to be acknowledged. And maybe the situation is you didn't have to, but I think, again, facing a good defensive front at MTSU could potentially force the hand a little bit and open up that playbook. So much like what MTSU's experienced through 3 weeks, I don't know what the offense necessarily looks like. But I know the other key to the game for you guys is win third down, which, again, there's so many similarities because MTSU has struggled on both sides of the football on third down.
Yeah, and I looked it up earlier. Don't have it exactly in front of me. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I got it right here. Marshall is 129th out of they list 134 on NCAA.com for stats at 26.7% on third downs. That is actually they have one off on here because it's 26.1, 12 of 46 is what we are. MTSU is 126. So we are right there. 129th and 126. You guys are 27.9 if that is accurate. So both teams under 28% on third down. I think winning third down, so we're not having to punt so much. We have punted an average of 7 times a game in the first 3 games. And it seems like when we're talking about executing on third down, that it gets even more dire on those third and short and then the fourth and short. I don't have stats to show that. But there's been several times where we've been 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and we can't pick it up. And we just have to do better on third down.
Well, it's so funny because this is really the second week in a row we're facing a team that has similar issues. Nevada didn't have a great offense, and they had a stout defense. And so I think it's funny now that you've really quantified a specific thing to watch in this week's game is which team is better on third down. I know in my show earlier this week, I said which team is going to be better in the trenches. Marshall hasn't had the issue on the offensive side as far as keeping their quarterback upright that MTSU has experienced anyways, relative. But both defenses have been great. Can they continue that pressure and make life hard for those quarterbacks? So it'll be interesting to see, much like Trevor Haggard and his team can be an X factor for you and all of your insurance needs. Again, car, home, future life insurance. He's your guy. But I want to know, Russ, who is an X factor for the Thundering Herd this Saturday?
I think it's going to be Floyd Lacey, DeMarcus Floyd Lacey. He's an absolute weapon in the return game, and he could be dangerous at wide receiver. He was at Jacksonville State and has been at other stops, North Alabama. We have not really seen him out at wideout, and I'm not sure why, but give you a little bit of a clue on what he's done in the return game here. Let's see here. 43 yards he had last week on 1. He had 72 punt return yards overall, but 43. He had one earlier in Missouri State. I know that was in the 40s. He shown some flashes there, even in the Georgia game. He has the ability to take it to the house. He's shifty. He's explosive. He is. Some people are that, and they just are not good at punt returns. He seems to be. So to me, that in a game where we might see more punting due to offensive struggles, it seems natural that he might be that X factor in this game.
Second straight week, an opposing media member has suggested that the special teams is going to be a big part of their success. So interesting to see. Obviously, this is on the more of the return side. So MTSU hasn't necessarily been tested in that facet because they've been good enough at pinning and causing or creating fair catches, if you will, by the hang time and flipping the field. But obviously, big returner could be a big part of that for Marshall. So look forward to what he provides and what Marshall gives us this weekend. I know you have already talked about a good contingency of fans are going to be making their way. Marshall's always had a great fan base. I know I complimented that on the basketball, the hardwood side. They've always had great fans. I guess for those that don't know, the other home game was Austin P 2 hours down the road. Marshall, a much further drive. If you're making the drive, you might even be flying into Nashville. I guess give us some insight. How many Marshall fans, I know yourself included, are expected to make the trip tomorrow?
What's the capacity of your stadium?
It's not going to matter, but it's around 30,000.
30,000. I'm just trying to think of a percentage, of the stadium, not of the overall attendance. I could see 3,000 going. We travel very, very well, but we have a lot of people that are over in the Lexington, Louisville, some people in that Nashville area that will be there, other parts of Tennessee. There are places that it is not that far of a drive because they're not from Huntington that will be there as well. But we have always traveled very well. I think we took 7,000 to Notre Dame, now it's going to Notre Dame, and that was probably the one time that we were going to get to go up there. So it was a bucket list item for people. But we have routinely shown up and shown out at away games. Our fan base is rabid like that. I have several people that I have interviewed and talked to that have not missed a game in years, home or away. And we just honored a guy last year. I think he has not missed an away game or a home game since 1985. So you're going to see a lot of Kelly Green down there. I would put it around 3,000. I'm hoping to have more.
I make the joke just because I don't know that MTSU is going to bring that many people. A lot of people left week one with a sour taste in their mouth. Again, losing, as you can imagine, losing to a local FCS team by that matter for nearly 3 touchdowns. So I imagine the Marshall fandom is going to rival a lot of what MTSU brings to the table. And I mean this in an endearing way. I wish more G5s had a cult-like following that Marshall does because you don't, and again, I don't know what the landscape is like in West Virginia. I know obviously you're not too far from Morgantown. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but here you're across, you're a transit city, as we like to call it. You got Vanderbilt that's just north. Everyone here's a Tennessee fan. Even Memphis in the landscape of G5 kind of takes over those sickos, if you will. So we don't have that fandom, and it's something to be admired of what Marshall has.
Yeah, we're more because we're on the border of Ohio and Kentucky. We are more pushed away from Morgantown, who is up near Pennsylvania. Just the absolute distance with the panhandles and everything that you can be in West Virginia. You just had someone come down to Huntington. They drove 6 hours away, and they were coming from West Virginia. I know Tennessee's bigger, but a lot of people think of West Virginia as a very small state. Almost everyone in the state is a WVU fan because it says West Virginia in the name, much like Tennessee for you guys. Plus, they have been in what I can't stand the P5, P4 moniker, but they have been in that division for decades and decades and decades and decades, where Marshall just moved back up in 1997. Famously, we had the plane crash and nearly lost football, but had to drop down a level. So yeah, it's wild if you see Marshall fans 99% went to Marshall. If you see other fans of these bigger schools, they just cheer them on, may have never even been to the campus, besides going to a game. But we like that, and Marshall does travel very well, and I wouldn't change that for the world. The only thing I'll say, you said you'd like to see more of that culture. We have noticed that when we moved to the Sun Belt. There are some very passionate fan bases there, like App State. They sell out every game. We're getting ready to go down to Louisiana, and they are very passionate there. Coastal has passionate fans. Southern Miss has passionate fans. JMU, ODU. It's been great since we've moved over there, and I made a lot of these road trips, and you do see a lot of that rabid fans. So I hope to see what you're talking about. I do hope that MTSU has that as well and can build and grow. And it's exciting. I don't want to go somewhere and there not be anybody there. I want rabid fans to be there and tell me how horrible I am for wearing the color I am.
Well, Russ, I can't give my fans any more kindling to the Sun Belt transition fire. I can't have any more of it. I'm envious, truthfully, of what the Sun Belt has, because you're right. And much like even the MAC seems to have this fuel of just fandom that Conference USA is kind of unique in its own standing. The only really, I don't even know if you consider it rabid fan base, but Western Kentucky has a great following. But outside of that, you're kind of left with even Liberty. They have a good online community, but because of their vast alma mater base, they're fans of larger schools elsewhere. So I think I love that side of Sunbelt, because you put that nail on the head. I know that's something that they're following on social media is the average attendance of the Sunbelt. I mean, even Western Kentucky, who's one of our more attended universities in Conference USA, would be the bottom third of Conference USA, and let alone what MTSU would fall in that bubble. But yeah. I love what the Sunbelt has to offer, and obviously I love what Marshall and the fans are going to offer to us this Saturday, and I look forward to it. Russ, I know you're making the trip, but as you already alluded to earlier in the episode, I'm doing a show with you this week. Any other things from you guys that we should expect prior to kickoff? Any sort of insight stuff that we can be checking out, and where are those socials that we can find it at?
Yeah, so my partner, KD Hudnall, is the guy behind ThunderCast _pod on Twitter, and that is where you will see the majority of any kind of content discussion-wise. I post links to our show on Facebook, but we don't really do any discussing over there. So if you want to interact with us, engage with us, head over to Twitter, ThunderCast, @ThunderCast _pod, and you'll be talking to KD. KD and I are going to do a preview show. We're going to record it Wednesday night. It'll probably upload 8 a.m. Thursday. So depending on what time you watch this show, it's either already up or it's about to be up. I don't know when this will be posting, but we'll have this at 8 a.m. on Thursday, and we will do a very deep dive with our keys to victory, stats from you guys, us, matchups. We get into it really well.
Lastly, Russ, I do this exactly backwards of what you do on your show. Vegas has this at 2.5, the over under 47.5. Tell me, what's your prediction for tomorrow?
Well, here's where everyone can hit @RussLivingGood over on Twitter and tell me how horrible I am. Zero disrespect meant. I just look at matchups and things, and I've got 31-14 Marshall over MTSU. Vastly different than the spread. I feel like the spread has been taken down because of that week 2 loss, and we're not the same team because we don't have the same quarterback and all that. So 31-14 officially right now.
I'm still hanging with the under. You're barely there, 40 at 45. Again, if Marshall fans that might be listening on crossover here, the MTSU under could feed families this year. So just keep that in mind. So I like the 47.5. I love the under because I don't know that MTSU can score, but in a world that even if Marshall blows them out, I don't know that Marshall can score 47.5. So that's why I love the under here. But Russ, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Again, thanks for your time. And of course, all the stuff you're doing this year.
Yeah, and I forgot you asked me this question. I forgot to answer, but we put our shows up on YouTube. It's the ThunderCast, and we're also audio streaming on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere that you download and stream that. So sorry about that.
No, but once again, man, I appreciate you taking, and I know you guys do stuff through basketball season as well. So again, I want to encourage people to listen there. Obviously, a great atmosphere for basketball. I mean, again, I've had many nightmares of what John Elmore was able to do.
He's a bad man.
Well, thanks again to Russ for joining us. And of course, those guys over at ThunderCast look forward to the game tomorrow night. Again, 6 p.m. kickoff here at Floyd. It'll be on ESPN Plus for those that can't make the trip. But thanks again to you, the listener, for joining us. If you're not already following us on socials, that's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course on YouTube at Blue Raider Pod. Don't miss another one of these uploads. Again, tomorrow after the live post-game press conference that we'll be streaming here on Twitter, I'll be joined once again with Connor Smith to recap our Tuesday episode, all of our keys to the game, X Factor. You don't want to miss it, so subscribe so you don't. We'll see you tomorrow, and until next time, go Blue.